Hey Rosebuds, welcome back to our channel. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a wig from start to finish. That means, the plucking, the bleaching, the tinting, and all of that. I'm also going to be making this wig on a sewing machine, which is pretty exciting. So stay tuned to see the final product. In this tutorial, I'll be using all Dolce Rosa products. This is their Virgin Indian Body Wave HD Frontal in 16 inches. You'll also need the Schwarzkopf Got to Be Freeze Blast Spray. We're going to use this item to protect the hairs while we bleach. What you're going to do here is spray this generously all over the hair. The main part you want to focus on is the very front of the frontal at the hairline, because that's where the knots are most visible and the bleach seeps through. We do this step so it can prevent the roots of your hair being extremely orange or over processing. Once you sprayed it, you're going to want to comb it in. Make sure all the baby hairs are packed in so you don't get random splotches of blonde, so it can stay consistent. Once you've combed in the Got to Be spray, you will let it sit for about 5 minutes. Next, you want to grab your Schwarzkopf Blonde Me powder bleach and developer. I like to use the 30 developer when bleaching. This way it can get all the knots gone, but I can also watch it so it doesn't over process. And you'll also need a wooden stick to help mix the product in. It's best to use non-metal items so the product doesn't overreact. You want to scoop size amount, and when you're pouring in the developer, you just want to go a little at a time. We need this consistency very thick. The thicker it is, the more it won't seep through. The thing with this bleach and developer, it rises over time. So if you started off thick, it will only, by the time it rises, it won't seep through the hair. If you started out too thin, it will rise and get really fluffy and seep through the hair. Need it this thick where it's not falling off. You can shake it, it is not going anywhere. This is the consistency that you want to aim for. In this step, you'll need a mannequin head, needles and T-pins, a Rattail comb, thread, and your dome cap. I like to use mesh dome cap for more breathable. I like to start my paste at the bottom of the frontal and work my way up. I use this method because the back knots on a frontal process slower than the knots in the front of the frontal, because the front of the frontal is more sparse, so the concoction works faster. So I like to start with the back, let it sit for about 20 minutes, then I'll make my way up into the front. I have my frontal placed off of the mannequin head and held in my other arm, because this method ensures that you're not pressing too heavy and pressing the bleach through the lace. You don't want to press too heavy while doing this so you don't push the product through the lace. You want to do this really lightly and soft. Take your time. This doesn't take too much time, so just be very patient. Little trick that I like to do is to bring the product past where the knots start, because if you stop the product right where the knots start, you might miss a few and it's really annoying going back and trying to fix everything. So if you spread it a little bit past it, like more onto the lace, it ensures that you've gotten all the knots. Next, you want to place your frontal onto aluminum foil. I like to let this sit for about 45 minutes. I didn't film this next part, but once the 45 minutes is up, you want to grab your frontal and wash it out with purple shampoo. In this video, I'm using the Ion Cool Blondes purple shampoo. Once I've washed out the shampoo, I'm also gonna place a mixture of 10% developer and purple shampoo onto the lace for about 5-10 minutes. This helps remove all brassiness, and it's a key point, and it really helps your lace. Your next step is to grab measuring tape, a marker that will show up against the lace, and tweezers. Next, you want to grab your mannequin head, your frontal, needle, and thread. When we're placing the dome cap, we don't want to overstretch it because this will throw off the measurements when using the sewing machine. In this clip, I'm going to show you 2 ways not to place a frontal and then how to do it properly. Don't want to place the lace exactly where that big front band of the frontal is. It will not lay properly. Don't want to pull the frontal too forward from the band. Again, it won't lay properly. The correct way to place a frontal is about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in front of the dome cap. And then you want to T-pin the front, back, and 2 sides. Here I'm showing you how to place it correctly. You want to get the end of the frontal in that thick part and align that with the band, but you don't want to go too backwards. You want to just align it perfectly where that end of the frontal material is touching the band of the dome cap without it being stretched. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Once you see that your frontal is laid nice and flush to the dome cap, that's how you know everything's positioned correctly. Like, you don't want to see any bumps or folds, just nice and flat. Once you see that you're at that step, the next step we're going to do is sew it down. Next, you want to grab your measuring tape, a marker, and some T-pins. I like to place the measuring tape at the back of the frontal, and then I'll get my marker and mark at every inch. This marking helps when using the sewing machine. This spacing it out at 1 inch will prevent it from either shrinking up or being too big. I will show you that when we get to the clip. So once I've marked it all the way down, I go to the sides and I align it. So when you look at it, it's a full semicircle of marks from the top to bottom, bottom to top, and it's all evenly spread out. Make sure to use a marker that's visible. I like to use this washable marker. I also started to use some pastels. Those works as well. On YouTube, you see a lot of people using permanent, like silver markers. I just feel like that shows up on the wig when it's done, and I don't like how that looks. Your next step, you want to grab your bundles. And again, in this video, I'm using Dolce Rosa bundles, 3 bundles of Virgin Indian body wave in 20 inches. And then we're going to double them. So basically what you want to do is once you unravel the bundles, they already come folded. You want to keep it in that way and then place them right under the sewing machine and lock it. I like to use a zigzag pattern stitch. Once everything is in place and locked in and properly aligned, you're just going to start stitching with the pedal foot. You want to make sure that you're holding the wefts to guide them, but you don't want to pull on it either because it will cause the machine to get caught. So you just do that throughout, and you do it throughout all 3 bundles. You really want to make sure you're stitching the bundles close. They need to be nice and tight so when you cut them, they don't fall apart and start shedding. You always want to make it a point to back stitch and double stitch the ends of each bundle and each time you start a new row. Once we've securely doubled our wefts, we're gonna grab the bundles and measure them to those lines that we made previously. And this cuts down the sewing machine time by half. Like, once you practice this enough, you can sew a whole wig within 30 minutes. So you're just going to measure up from the end of the weft to the end of the line and cut as such, and do that from bottom to top all the way up. You want to make sure you're cutting pretty accurately because you don't want the wefts to be too short when sewing or too long, because you want to avoid cutting while you're sewing. Single wefts at the top so it's not too bulky. So when you're cutting off the wefts, you want to place them on top of each other. Like if you start from the bottom, place it on top, so by the time you're done you can flip over your pile of bundles, and then when you're ready to sew, the bottom wefts will be at the top of the pile, and then you can just sew each weft accordingly since they're already in place, so you don't have to waste time trying to figure which weft goes on which line. We're back at the sewing machine, and again you just want to align the end of the weft to the line. Again, make sure everything's locked and secured in. Then you're going to start stitching. As I mentioned before, you want to always double stitch and back stitch each ends of each row. This ensures the security of the weft so nothing's falling apart. The machine is pretty easy. You just need practice. So when you're sewing, try your best not to pull anything, just hold it and guide it. And that way you're not going to overstretch or make your cap smaller. My first couple of wigs with the machine were a complete mess. So again, it's just practice. Once you've done like 5 of these, you'll be an expert. You can see how beautiful it looks in the inside. I just love the look of a sewing machine wig. It just looks way more professional, neat and clean. It's faster, it's easier, it's more secured. Everything about this is a lot better. My sister tried to put me on like 4 years ago. I should listen, but it's okay. Everything happens for a reason. Once we've made our wig and everything's perfect, you want to grab some Lotta Body mousse, your tweezers, and a Rattail comb. In this step, we're going to tweeze and pluck that hairline. We need to look very much scalpable, very much real, what lace. I do have a more detailed video on how to pluck the lace, but basically you just want to mimic a real hairline, and you want to pluck. You have to be gentle while plucking, first of all, and you want to pluck in sections. Try not to stay in the same spot for too long, because then you'll just become bald. All right, guys, so this is the final product. I think it looks pretty good. I'm feeling it. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. In this video, I taught you how to bleach your frontals, double your wefts, use a sewing machine, create a whole wig. I teach you how to pluck. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.